How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, we must begin today with the goings-on in Washington yesterday with all the leaders there. It's just, listen, there is this dog and pony show that happens where they know they feel like the foreign leaders do. They got to bend over backwards and say flattering things about Donald Trump. And then the right, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, I see the cry on right now at Fox that the president of Finland says more has happened in the last 2 weeks than with Joe Biden. And he's not wrong, by the way. Now, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the New York Times, they dismiss it. It's just brokenness all around instead of what's actually happening. Here's the bottom line. You know, I'm a critic of Donald Trump. I like a lot of what I get. I supported his campaign over Joe Biden. I will criticize him when I disagree. What do you have to criticize Donald Trump about? He's gotten people to sit down together to have substantive conversations about ending a war in Ukraine. You don't have to trust Vladimir Putin. I don't trust Vladimir Putin. I don't trust him at all. I don't actually think Vladimir Putin wants peace, but what's the harm in trying? You know, it's odd that if Joe Biden did what Donald Trump did, the left would be fawning all over him. I'm sure the right would be attacking him. But there is a level of competence in what happened that you on the left don't want to give to Donald Trump. He got Vladimir Putin to come to the United States to meet the American president. American presidents and the Russian president have not met face-to-face since Obama was president by themselves. You got the European leaders went to the White House yesterday. You've got the United States willing to give security guarantees to protecting Ukraine. You've even got Volodymyr Zelensky in a nice suit instead of combat fatigues. And you want to attack Donald Trump for getting these people to talk? What's the harm in talking? And then, of course, they're convinced that Donald Trump is just doing Russia's bidding. Now, Donald Trump is saying that he will advance security guarantees for Ukraine. However, he is now saying that there will be no boots on the ground. Yesterday, it was an open question. Would there be American boots on the ground? Today, he's saying no, but he will supply the weaponry for the NATO allies. It will not be a NATO security guarantee. The United States will not be involved. That's an antagonistic point the Russians have. They don't want Ukraine in NATO. Trump's making it clear he'll block Ukraine from NATO, but he's making it clear he will arm the Europeans to protect Ukraine. There's the security guarantee. Victoria Coates, good friend of mine, works at the Heritage Foundation now, was Deputy National Security Advisor to the Trump administration in the first term, was on Fox News.
And on the deterrent front, as well as the leadership front, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that everybody in the room yesterday agreed that Secretary of State Marco Rubio would lead a task force to draft up what some of these security guarantees would look like. And yesterday, during President Trump's remarks, he said that the European nations are going to take a lot of the burden, and then the United States will come in and make sure that things are really secure. So, I mean, fill in the blanks for us on what you think that means. It sounds like the president might be talking about something short of American boots on the ground.
Oh, I think so. I mean, the president is always careful to reserve all of his options. So, he's not saying he will or will not commit to, American troops. I think that's highly unlikely at the current juncture. So what he is willing to do is say the United States will sell $100 billion worth of arms to Ukraine over a period of time. There will be more arms that will be sold to the EU. So they will purchase those for deployment in Europe. That's so different from what we've seen over the last 3.5 years, where we just had emergency supplemental after emergency supplemental jammed through the United States Congress. And the thing about these emergency supplementals is that's just more debt on the U.S. taxpayer, on us and our kids. And we just can't sustain that any longer. So he's setting up a new paradigm where Europe pays for Europe's wars. Yes, the United States assists. Yes, he's providing just invaluable leadership to try to get out of this crisis. But that we as the United States have other things we have to attend to, so we need to get this wrapped up. So I think this is just a whole new framework for the situation.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think Victoria's absolutely right. We're not going to have boots on the ground, but we are going to resume being the arsenal of democracy. And what's wrong with that? We make money. Our defense industry makes a lot of money. We build weapons that kill bad guys for ourselves and for our allies. And we get peace in Ukraine. The concern that everybody has is the Russians will just use a peace to rearm, to stockpile weapons. And there's legitimacy to that concern. There absolutely is. You can't trust Vladimir Putin. So what do you do if you can't trust Vladimir Putin? Well, you stockpile armaments in Ukraine and prepare them for another war that you hope won't come. This is Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, was talking to Laura Ingraham on Fox last night.
We have not discussed that at all today, so that will be part of the discussions which will now start. We will try to bring them to a next stage of understanding over the coming days and weeks, of course. I'm not sure that we can solve all the details, but what we all agree on is that if this war comes to an end, we cannot have a repeat of the Minsk peace agreement of 2014, which was then basically challenged by the Russians in the months and years after. So it has to be definitive that Russia will never, ever, ever again try to catch a square mile of territory of Ukraine post a peace deal. And again, all the details now have to be hammered out. And when it comes to the money, you're right that the US has spent a lot of money on Ukraine. The good news is that President Trump has now negotiated through me with the European partners in NATO, that NATO partners in Europe are paying for the delivery of American weapons. So this is good news for the American middle class, but also good news for Ukraine, because it means that the flow of lethal weapons from the US is, as we speak, continuing into Ukraine.
So no boots on the ground from the United States, boots on the ground from the Europeans, lots of weapons from the United States. This is a pretty good deal. Now, here's why I don't think Putin actually wants peace. There are a number of issues. First of all, the Europeans may be spending a lot of billions of dollars to give arms to Ukraine, but they're spending more than that on fuel from Russia, natural gas from Russia, oil from Russia. The Europeans can't wean themselves off their Russian addiction, so the Russians are getting money from the Europeans. They're getting more money from the Europeans than the Ukrainians are to buy American weapons. So why does he need to stop the war? The Europeans are funding the war against Ukraine. Vladimir Putin likewise lost a lot of people in his prisons. I shouldn't say lost, got out of prison a great many people that he then sent hardened criminals to Ukraine to fight in the war. So Vladimir Putin emptied his jails of hardened criminals, sent them to Ukraine, and taught them how to kill even more efficiently than they were already killing in Russia. What do you do with those people? What do you do? Do you force them to stay in this new territory that the Russians would supposedly control in Ukraine? What exactly do you do with the hardened criminals who were released from Russian prisons and are now turned into real efficient killers in Ukraine? Do you force them to stay in the captured territory, force them to stay in Crimea, the Donetsk? Do you allow them to go back to Russia? Do you kill them? Do you have them all rounded up and shot before they can get back to her? What do you do? What do? You probably don't round them up and kill them. There are too many of them. So what do? Or do you keep the fight going? There's bombings right now while I'm talking. There are bombs falling out of the sky from Russia to Ukraine. The Russians said they would be willing to consider not bombing the Ukrainians. They're still doing it. What do? I don't think Russia wants peace. I don't think Vladimir Putin wants peace. I don't think Putin can afford peace. He can afford war. Clearly, he can afford war. I don't think he can afford peace with the repatriation of soldiers back to Russia. They fought over land, and they got some of the land. They didn't get all the land they wanted. It's been a slog for them. The soldiers, the enlisted soldiers, not the generals, are discontented. They're not happy if they go home. So what do? Do you turn your anger against Vladimir Putin? That's the question. That's why I don't know that Putin wants peace. And right now, what are the Russians doing with Ukraine? This is an important part that doesn't get added to the conversation a lot. Your host, I will do this for you. It's one that very few people are talking about. Right now, Ukraine is a test bed operation for an alliance between the Russians, North Koreans, the Iranians, and the Chinese. Right now in Ukraine are Chinese, Iranian, and North Korean soldiers helping the Russians. There is Iranian, North Korean, and Chinese technology helping the Russians. They are beginning to learn how to learn from each other. Now, what do I mean by that? In World War II, the Allied powers had to learn how to coordinate together. They had to essentially learn how to learn from each other to be able to be effective against the Nazis and the Italians in the Atlantic theater and against the Japanese in the Pacific theater. It took them a little while. At the beginning of World War II, mistakes were made and lives were lost as the Americans, the Canadians, the Australians, the New Zealanders, the British, the French, you name it, how they worked together, learned to learn from one another, learned to speak the same military language, so they were all on the same page, fighting with the same style, and complementing each other's strengths and offsetting each other's weaknesses. The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, and the Iranians are using Ukraine to do that. These powers, these Axis powers, are inside Ukraine right now, learning how to learn from each other, which is the first step before you begin a collaborative military structure. You have to learn how to learn from each other. You have to be able to translate across different languages and different styles of fighting and different weaponry and different command structures. How do you have a unified structure? That's what NATO is right now, how the NATO allies, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, how they continue to learn how to learn from each other, speak the same language, and fight in the same styles while offsetting each other's weaknesses and complementing each other's strengths. This is now happening in Ukraine. The Iranians, the North Koreans, and the Chinese are learning how to build weapons to fight a land war in Europe with Russia. The Russians are learning how to coordinate with these other countries. And what are they doing now? They're teaching the Chinese submarine combat skills on how to fight Americans in China. In the South China Sea right now, the Russians and Chinese are learning how to learn from each other in submarine warfare. It's all a collaborative effort. There's actually a dividend in war progress being paid by the Russians to continue fighting in Ukraine because they're learning weaponry from these other countries. These other countries are learning Russian styles of fighting. They're learning land war tactics. They're learning submarine tactics in the South China Sea. All of that is a byproduct of the Ukrainian war. There's actually a greater benefit to the Russians to keep the war going. So I'm not sure the president of the United States can get peace with Russia because I don't really know that the Russians are committed to peace. They're willing to talk. They're willing to pay lip service. I don't fault, by the way, Donald Trump for this. I think the left would fault Donald Trump for it, but the left will fault Donald Trump for everything. Short of dying, there's nothing Donald Trump can do the left will praise him for. I personally think as someone who's willing to criticize him, even as I support him, I'm willing to criticize him. I think getting all of these people at the table and trying to have a substantive peace conversation is a good thing. I think trying to get the Russians to announce what they need in order to call off the war is a good thing. I think security guarantees to Ukraine, particularly ones that don't involve Americans on the ground, is a good thing. I don't see the need to reflexively criticize Donald Trump for getting these people around the room and doing some good and trying to seek peace. Whether or not he can get it, I don't know that he can. But what's the harm in trying? The fact that the left can't be honestly patriotic when it comes to this tells you everything you need to know about them right now. They're in full resistance mode. The president of the United States is seeking peace in Ukraine, and the left is angry about it. He's seeking to save lives in Washington, D.C. The left is angry about it. He's seeking to put Americans ahead of illegal aliens. The left is angry about it. There's nothing he can do to placate the left short of curling up and dying. And even then, they won't be happy because they'll be left with J.D. Vance. The left is just in perpetual anger mode, and they have no alternative. I got to acknowledge something for you that I hadn't been on Bill Maher's show in several years. I have been impressed with his evolution because he's decidedly of the left. He is a progressive. He is an atheist, but he's also recognizing that there's a level of unhingedness devolving onto the left, an intellectual inconsistency. This is from him the other night. Listen to this.
It's funny, I see that today is the anniversary of Woodstock. This is 56 years ago. And the hippies, what did they hate more than anything else? War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. So if you're the kind of person who says, you can find some good in anybody, this would be the good in Donald Trump. He really does not like war. Thailand and Cambodia were firing at each other. Rwanda and the Congo. Most people don't even know about these. India and Pakistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan. He got involved in all of them. He doesn't really, he wants it. Now, the way he does it, as usual, not, with the Ukraine, the solution was, surrender. Give Putin everything he wants. And even that didn't work. That's the thing. He gave Putin anything he wanted, and it didn't work. But again, let's not have the zombie lie that he's still backing Putin because, first of all, he bombed Iran. That was a Putin ally. He didn't get out of NATO.
No.
He mended fences with NATO. So, and he put sanctions back on Russia. So,
You're really coming around, Bill.
I'm not coming around. There's no coming around. There's just what's
true, he says. And he's right. There is what's true. Listen, Donald Trump has been involved in all of those deals. The left is saying, well, he just wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He's not sincere. He just wants the Nobel Peace Prize. So? I mean, Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing but getting elected, being the first black American president. At the time, I said it was an affirmative action award, and I got lit up by people saying it. But literally, they gave it to Barack Obama for getting elected president of the United States. It wasn't affirmative action for black people. That's the way people took it. My point was that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee loves to give awards to a certain number of Americans who hate America. That is Barack Obama. And they gave it to him. Donald Trump, unfortunately, loves the United States, so he's not going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, y'all, before I get out of here. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, you can get 3 of them, save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. They are air purifiers. They get rid of dust, pollen, everything floating in the air. They kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, but they eliminate odors. All odors, no odor, can stand up to the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Generates ozone that floats into the room that touches the ionized particles of odor and wipes them out. Get 3 of them, save $200, get them for less than $200. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Hello, friends. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. I'm going to discuss a story with you that will blow your mind. This is a public high school, Stonebridge High School. This is in Loudon County, Virginia. Loudon County is the school system where there's an open rebellion of parents against the school system for inserting trans students into inappropriate spaces. You'll recall it was in Loudon County where the father got arrested for aggressively protesting. He was not violent, but was aggressive at a school board meeting because his daughter had been assaulted by a boy who identified as a girl, and the school system tried to cover it up. And he had to be pardoned by the governor because the local area is so progressive, the DA so progressive, they prosecuted the guy. They were able to get a conviction. The conservative parents. Oh, let me say it's not even a conservative issue here. The non-progressive parents, and that includes moderates, are so not in control of the school system. The progressives dominate so heavily here that anyone who's not a progressive, their kid is targeted. And the justice system in that county works against anyone who's not a progressive. It's a broken part of Northern Virginia. And at Stonebridge High School, 3 boys are being punished for being boys in the boys' locker room. What did they do? Well, they were being loudly critical of a girl using the boys' locker room. And the girl, against school policy, videotaped the boys in the boys' locker room. And instead of punishing the girl, they punished the boys. Because you see, the girl identifies as a trans male. This is from KVAL, the CBS 13 affiliate in Loudon County, Virginia. Actually, from 7 News there. Last week, 7 News, Nick Minnick broke the story that Loudon County Public Schools is investigating 3 young men who were videotaped inside the boys' locker room at Stonebridge High School. The video was shot by who they say is a biologically female student that uses the boys' facilities because she identifies as male. That is permitted under the Loudon County School Board's policy. The boys' parents insist they did nothing wrong and are demanding to know why their sons are being investigated when the student who shot the video in the boys' locker room, which clearly violates school policy, is not facing scrutiny. 7 News exclusively obtained the video that started it all, and it's the video at the heart of the Title IX investigation into 3 boys accused of sexual harassment of a female student. That student identifies as a boy and has been using the boys' locker room facility. She took the video in school. Good on Channel 7 News up there for using female pronouns to refer to this girl. The female student turns on her camera and walks into the boys' locker room at Stonebridge High School. Most of the video is dark, but you can hear locker room sounds and the boys' voices. There's a girl in here. There's a girl in here, a boy asks. 30 seconds later, you hear this. Why is there a girl? I'm so uncomfortable. There's a girl, a boy says. A female, bro. Get out of here, a boy responds. The parents of the boys say they were having a conversation amongst themselves and not with the female student. That's when the female student appears to take the phone out of her pocket and aims the camera at the boys in the locker room with the shower area and the bathroom area in the background. Shortly after that, the video ends. There are 3 audio redactions in the video, which is when the boys' names are being spoken. Loudon County refused to give a copy of the video to the 3 boys who are being investigated, according to the boys' families. The only way the families were able to get a copy of the video was by submitting a Freedom of Information Act request to the Loudon County Sheriff's Office, which had a copy of the video. The Loudon County Sheriff's Office had a copy of the video because deputies were reviewing the video to see if the male student committed a crime by recording minors in a locker room. The parents are mystified and angry, demanding to know what exactly in this video justifies their sons being investigated for sexual harassment. Let me tell you something about Title IX. My daughter goes to a non-woke university. There are certainly wokes there. There are certainly progressives there, but the university is not what you would consider a woke university. And all the students have been lectured thoroughly about Title IX. In fact, they've been lectured so much about Title IX, the students, freshmen to seniors, they make jokes about Title IX. That if you insult anybody, even if you're messing with them in good fun, it's like, that's a Title IX violation. Title IX has been weaponized thanks to the Obama administration and then the Biden administration, weaponized against kids. These are 3 high school boys in a boys' locker room complaining about a girl being in the locker room who videotapes them, and it's the boys who are in trouble. As I'm talking about this, I see on Fox News now, right now on Outnumbered, they're covering the same story. The 3 boys, they are literally in a locker room. There are showers and toilets behind them in the video, and the 3 boys are upset about a girl in the locker room. Friends, I got to tell you, I don't know that there's hope in Loudon County, Virginia. I raised this story, which seems to be hyper-local because it's part of a larger issue. The elites versus everybody else. Loudon County is Northern Virginia, wealthy people, very progressive. They're willing to punish the boys for being boys and wanting a safe space for boys. Now, here's the irony. Yesterday, I mentioned the New York Times has... They have covered the issue of boys and problems with boys. They have covered the issue of, young men not having places to be young men. I don't think the New York Times would be willing to say that the young woman in the locker room is a young woman. I think that the New York Times would say if a girl wants to be a boy, let her have it. Here's the problem. This goes back to Nancy Mace, who's now running for governor in South Carolina, who I personally think is a bit psychotic. She pushed her way into, the Citadel? Desegregated the Citadel, where men were learning to be soldiers. Nancy Mace decided she wanted to be there as well. And she was able to get a case all the way up to the Supreme Court that desegregated the Citadel from being all male to allowing women as well. And now Nancy Mace, who for a time was very supportive of trans rights, is now very anti-trans. And you would think she's running for governor on the issue of transgenderism. Nancy Mace opened the door to the transgender fight and doesn't see the irony in her demanding to be let into an all-male space. And now the girls want to be let into all-male spaces, and they're willing to identify as men to do it. And the men are wanting to get into all-female spaces, and they're willing to identify as women to do it. You open the door to one, it's hard to close it on the other. Men should have spaces to be men, and a locker room should be one of them. But progressives have decided that the distinction between the sexes is irrelevant. Progressives have decided this across the country. It's not just Loudon County. It's happening all over the place. It's happening in conservative states, but in progressive cities in conservative states. The public school system is around the country failing. There are good public schools. There are great public school teachers, but collectively, the data shows public schools are failing to educate our kids. They're more focused on indoctrination across the country. And again, there are exceptions. There are some great public schools, some great public school teachers. But when you're talking in the general term public school, they're failing. And Loudon County is leading the way. And it is progressives who have decided that public school systems and the military as well should be at the vanguard of social change. And part of that social change is acceptance of transgenderism. And the Loudon County school system is one of the most vocal about it in the United States. If you can get your kids out of a public school, you should. It's why school choice is such a good idea. Introduce competition and allow the parents who want an escape from the insane asylum to have that escape. It is really the elites versus everyone else. In Oklahoma, my buddy Ryan Walters there, the Oklahoma superintendent of schools, he's decided that they're going to require applicants for teacher jobs from California and New York to pass an exam that opponents are calling it a MAGA loyalty test. It's not a MAGA loyalty test. It's to make sure that you're not a crazy person. This is from the Associated Press. Ryan Walters said Monday that any teacher coming from the two blue states will be required to pass an assessment exam administered by Prager University, an Oklahoma-based conservative nonprofit. As long as I'm superintendent, Oklahoma classrooms will be safeguarded from the radical leftist ideology fostered in places like California and New York. Prager University puts out short videos with a conservative perspective on politics and economics. It promotes itself as focused on changing minds through the creative use of digital media. The state education department said the test has been finalized and will be rolling out soon. The state did not release the 50-question test, but did provide the first 5 questions, which include asking what the first 3 words of the U.S. Constitution are and why freedom of religion is important to America's identity. That doesn't sound like that's any sort of MAGA loyalty test. That sounds like a basic understanding of American civics, like the citizenship exam somebody would take to be a citizen. Randy Weingarten of the AFT, which has just killed the reputation of teachers nationally, says it's a MAGA loyalty test. Do you know what the first 3 words of the American Constitution are, by the way? I do, off the top of my head. We the people. The next ones are of these United States, or of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. We the people. Do you know why freedom of religion was important to the founders? Because so many of those people who came to the United States as colonists before the United States was formed were religious dissidents from Europe, fleeing the religious wars in Europe. Recognizing that people's deep core beliefs on faith should matter and the public should respect them instead of persecuting them. State Representative John Waldron, the Oklahoma Democratic Party chair, decried the test as political posturing. If you want to see a textbook definition of indoctrination, how about a loyalty test for teachers? There's no loyalty test. This is a basic knowledge of American civics, and they're trying to think about that. The left is to tie basic civics knowledge to being loyal to Donald Trump. So people who actually know their basic knowledge about the United States are apparently considered loyal to Donald Trump. That should be a damning indictment on the Democrats, that if you know what the first three words are of the Constitution, you're considered a MAGA patriot, not actually a good person. This is wild to me. This is where the left is headed with this sort of stuff. Ryan Walters exposing the lunacy of the left, protecting kids from wackadoo leftists from California and New York. I would encourage Ryan Walters, the superintendent of education in Oklahoma, to apply the same test to any teacher that comes from Loudon County, Virginia. If you're a teacher from Loudon County, Virginia, moving to Oklahoma, you should have to pass this test as well. You absolutely should. It's absolutely insane that boys in Loudon County, Virginia can be prosecuted for having a conversation amongst themselves in a locker room where they express their discomfort about having a girl in the locker room, and the girl who videotapes them in the locker room is not being punished. This is where progressives are these days, punishing the law abiders to protect the lawbreakers. Maybe some of these boys will want to go to Hillsdale College and get a solid education. Go to ericforhillsdale.com if you want an education from Hillsdale College. You can take one of 40 different classes from Hillsdale College. It's education. It's not indoctrination. They got a great one on the Federalist Papers right now. They're 30-minute lectures. Now, some of them have 10 episodes. Some of them have 12, depending on the class you take. But all the lectures, about 30 minutes. Do it at your own pace. They're fantastic. And you, my friends, can get going at ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Really is just fantastic class. You learn a lot. You get great engagement. You don't pay a penny. It's completely free. I guess I should have led with that. It's completely free. It's just a fantastic opportunity to learn something about a subject you love, from math to chemistry to philosophy to history to literature. It's all there. ericforhillsdale.com. As I get to break, I got ESPN up, and they're showing that next Friday, actually, no, it's really next Thursday. Some of the games, college football returns with the big stuff next Saturday. I cannot wait for college. We're 2 weeks away? Really, we got this weekend, and the next weekend football returns. Thank God. Hello, welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. I think some people have kind of they've misread signals. There's a guy in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountains whose name is Eric Orwell. He claims to be a Platonic scholar. He's developing 160 acres in Ravenden, Arkansas. To live there, you must be white and heterosexual. Applicants to the community are screened with an in-person interview, a criminal background check, a questionnaire about ancestral heritage, and sometimes even photographs of their relatives. The community's two architects, a classically trained French horn player who's live-streamed adult videos, and a former jazz pianist arrested but not charged for attempted murder in Ecuador, say they must personally confirm that applicants are white before they can live there. They claim that even though people say it is not constitutional, that in this political climate they can do it. Y'all, I'm 100% convinced that no, you're not going to be able to do it. The Eric Orwell is the de facto spokesman moonlights as a platonic scholar on YouTube. Before he had children, he made explicit videos with his now ex-wife on a porn site. Yeah, sounds like upstanding people who want you to move into their community, and you got to be lily white to do it. You do understand that this racially segregated compound is actually unconstitutional. You can't have discrimination based on race in this country for neighborhoods, and I don't know why any normal person would want to live in a neighborhood with a former pornographer and someone who was accused of homicide. I have no idea. I don't know if the guy, who's the other guy here, the Peter Siri, one of the compound's co-founders, designed Return of the Land's legal structure. A former jazz pianist facing criminal charges in Ecuador. He's got an account full of anti-Semitic posts. And I guess this is the guy who was not charged. He was arrested but not charged for attempted murder in Ecuador. I don't know about that. But you know what? We live in crazy times, and they are convinced they can get away with it because of the times we live in, and I'm pretty sure that is actually not the case. But also, who would want to live there? They got 40 occupants and some goats, according to the New York Times. We do live in weird times. I gotta say that. I don't know that. Maybe we should allow them to have their separatist community, but good Lord, talk about a breeding ground for crazy. My goodness. When we come back, can we talk about the NFL? It starts up not this coming weekend, but weekend after next. We got 2 weekends to go. The NFL comes back, and some people online have decided suddenly to become very outraged about the very effeminate gay male cheerleaders some NFL teams have. Did you know they've had them since 2018? If you want to be outraged about it, it is certainly a choice for you to be outraged, but I kind of think the NFL is about the last thing Americans have in common with each other, and people on both sides are trying to divide us from watching football games together, and I just don't think any of us should take the bait and want to talk about it when we come back.